Hi, well, here we are, another job underway. Having finished up 2021 with a little project which was rebuilding the suspension on our Nissan Navara, the first project of 2022 is repairing our swimming pool pump, which stopped working about Christmas. And the problem was the motor bearing had seized up and the pump just stopped. Fortunately, there's a thermal cutout, so when it got a bit hot, because the bearing had jammed, the thermal cutout tripped and stopped any more damage. So I ordered all the parts from the pump manufacturer in Australia, and fortunately they have all the parts in stock, and I've got the new parts just arrived. So the problem was here, this bearing, which goes on the front of the motor shaft, are completely seized up, doesn't turn at all. And it was due to a water leak from the pump side, the water side. A mechanical seal was just leaking slightly, letting water trickle through onto the motor bearing, which is obviously the dry side of the pump. So with the water trickling in, it got into the bearing and the bearing eventually seized up. So we've just slid on a new bearing, a new SKF bearing, which fits perfectly. And now it's a matter of using the rest of the new parts, new impeller, new seals, to put it all back together. And hopefully we get the swimming pool pump running again, because the pool's looking a bit sad at the moment because there's been no pump running for about 10 days. So anyway, that's the first bit. Parts have arrived, bearing fitted onto the motor shaft, and now we can start assembly. So having slid the bearing onto the motor shaft, the next job is we need to slide, or rather fit, this water seal rubber into the end of the motor housing. This is like a secondary seal which stops the water getting to the bearing. So this is a bit like a grommet. So I'm just going to apply some silicone grease, and then we'll fit it into the end motor cover. So with a liberal coating of silicone grease, we've pressed the rubber seal into the motor end cover, and now we can slide the motor into position and put the bearing into the housing on this side, and then we should be able to spin that freely. So we'll just check out and see if that works okay. So yesterday evening we rebuilt the swimming pool pump motor with new bearings, and new bearings on the stator, and also a new front rubber water seal, I should say, on the front of the shaft. So that's now been done. I've tested the motor and it runs perfectly. So now the next job is getting onto the actual water pump side of the device, and this is the front water seal plate, which is actually the back part of the pump, and we have to fit a new mechanical seal in there and a new pump impeller, which we've just had delivered. So that's the next job, so we're going to get on with that now. So the pump seal comprises of two pieces. It has this ceramic faced seal which fits into the seal plate, and then there's this carbon faced spring device seal which goes onto the impeller, and with the spring it's pressed tightly into position so that the carbon face rubs against the ceramic part, stopping the water going from the pump side into the motor side. So that's the next job. So I've just put a little bit of silicone grease in the opening on the seal plate, and this seal goes into this aperture here, just presses into place so it's nice and flush. Yep, Okay, and now we put the other part onto the impeller and bolt the plate onto the motor and then tighten the impeller onto the motor shaft, and that should give us the first part of the pump installation. So now we've got the pumps and motor seal plate bolted onto the motor with 13mm bolts, and the half of the mechanical seal in place with the ceramic face. And now we've just got to screw on the impeller, the actual pump part if you like, with the other half of the mechanical seal already slid on the shaft, with the carbon side facing out, which will rub against the ceramic part of the seal and actually make the water seal in the pump. So we've temporarily screwed the pump impeller onto the motor shaft, and now we have to take it off to double check that the seal faces are touching properly. We should see a little mark where they touch. Now that's working perfectly. You can see a very faint black line evenly all around the ceramic seal where the carbon part of the impeller seal is pressing tightly against it when the impeller is screwed in, which means we'll have a completely watertight seal. So now we've checked that and we can see it's all mating up properly. We can screw the impeller in place and then start on the next part of the pump assembly. Next we have to screw on the pump diffuser over the impeller, and this actually directs the flow of water from the pump body inlet into the impeller for pumping. So this is screwed on with 2 screws. So the pump diffuser is now screwed on with the 2 screws, and the next job is actually to fit the body of the pump itself, the big pump body, over the impeller and diffuser assembly, and that's very much the pump build finished. Just a few other little bits to do. So now's the moment of the truth. We've just plugged the pump into the swimming pool pump controller, and we're just going to give it a quick blast of power to make sure it runs before we plumb it all back into the system. So we're just going to go and push the button on the controller, and we'll keep our fingers crossed it all runs. So let's have a look. Back of the pump, we can see the pump impeller. That should now spin into life. Excellent, and it's running quiet as a mouse too, all working perfectly. So now we just got to plumb it into the system. Well, the pump is in and it's working perfectly. Very quiet. The other pump you can hear is the one filling our water tank. We've got 2 pumps going at the minute, but this one's very quiet, beautiful. And the next problem to sort out is the is the filter control valve. Having been left for a few weeks, all the seals have dried out, so that's leaking like mad. So I think we'll have to rebuild that next. But anyway, at least the pump's working, so we can fill the pool up, clean it, and then next job will be the repairing the control valve. Always something. Don't have a swimming pool if you want an easy life.